Hello and welcome to the tennis. Poppy's big oppie, Ruud's shock exit opens up the Roland Garros draw for the Australian. Monfils' miracle, Gael's heroic comeback in front of a home crowd in Paris, and joint winner, Maya doubles up in Morocco. That's all ahead with me, Matt Trollope, and this week it's a sit-down takeover of the tennis as I'm joined by my regular co-host Viv Christie. It's podcast domination.
It is, Matt. Same chair, different podcast, but great to be here. Great to see you stepping in for Zabe, who is unfortunately unable to join us today.
Yeah, we're hoping that he feels better soon. Normally, Todd, when we introduce you, we would say 22-time doubles champion, but let's keep it Roland Garros focused today and say you are the 2000 Roland Garros doubles champion where you completed your career slam.
Yeah, it was a dry period on the clay, wasn't it? Because it was just one of those 22. Who wrote Poppy's Oppie, by the way?
It wasn't me.
I like that.
But it's quite good. Opportunity. But Todd Woodbridge in the chair joining us.
Matt. And, nice to see you, Viv.
And Sam Stosur, a Roland Garros doubles champion in 2006. 4 times you reached the semi-finals in singles, and in 2010 you made the final. Yep. So it's a great tournament for you as well. It must be nice to be watching it and bringing back those memories.
Did you make the semis 4 times?
Yes.
Wow.
I guess, yeah. I knew it was
Incredible.
3.
Well, 3 plus finals. So you
Okay,
That's bloody good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I love this time of year. I love
So much so that she wore a Roland Garros jacket in today.
Yeah, I did. I had my Roland Garros rain jacket on today. I love watching the clay. I mean, I love watching it. I loved playing on it. I just think it makes tennis, that little bit different, interesting. You see the cat and mouse, you see the tactics, and I know it's just fun.
And Todd, you're in the chair for Channel 9's broadcast for Roland Garros. How's it all been going in the first couple of days?
It's been good. I mean, we've been fortunate enough with scheduling. We've had Aussies to start our coverage, which is absolutely perfect. So been a bit of a tough run, but also we've had some wins. So we're pleased with that. And I'm just getting used to kind of overnight, slowly getting later and later as we get into next week when it gets very late, where we'll be finishing at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Well, we're seeing now, we've actually got our draws lined up in front of us, and you can see when it starts to take shape and get through to the third round, and you've got seeds starting to meet each other and things like that. I guess with what's caught your eye this week, I might kick off. And I think what's caught my eye is the section that is right closest to me here. I saw somebody describe it as the section of death. On Twitter, it is the section led by Iga Swiatek, who is randomly the 5th seed this time. That's a very unfamiliar seed to have next to her name. But she could potentially in the 4th round play either Elena Rybakina or Jelena Ostapenko, which is would be whoever. If she was to get past Jacqueline Christian in the 3rd round, that would be very, very tough considering everything that's happening. I think Swiatek's caught my eye because of how she started the tournament. There was a lot of question marks about her coming in, but she put down a 6-1, 6-2 win over Emma Raducanu overnight, which is a real statement victory. And if she gets past Jacqueline Christian in the 3rd round, and that's tough because she just made the Rabat final, then you've got the prospect of this match against potentially Ostapenko, who's 6-0 against her in the head-to-head, and they're 2 former French Open champions, or Rybakina, who's another player that really troubles her. And that would probably be the most trouble she ever would have been in at Roland Garros, I think. Every time she's played and she's always been winning, she's usually the favourite. I'm not sure she would be this time.
Especially if it's Ostapenko, I probably wouldn't put her as the favourite. And I remember actually being on this pod sometime last year talking about, okay, let's see when they play on clay. What happens with that result? Well, Ostapenko just beat her the last time they played on clay, and the only time they played on clay. So there's obviously something about that matchup that Iga does not like and Jelena loves. And if it does end up being that, it'll be a very interesting prospect to see who can do it at Roland Garros. And then, if it's Rybakina, again, her ball coming through the court, if the conditions are right for Rybakina, that's going to be another tough one. So, big test for Iga coming up.
And you can talk to that too, Sam, because Rybakina is coming in as the Strasbourg champion, which is obviously something that was a tournament you won a couple of times leading into the French, and it's quite a good week before the tournament because it's the same country, same kind of conditions.
Yeah, very similar conditions. Courts are very similar. The centre court there's beautiful to play on. If it's raining in Paris, it's probably raining in Strasbourg, and it's just a nice, easy week to guide yourself into a Grand Slam. And Rybakina's form also this year hasn't been outstanding by her, standard or level. So to win a title coming into a Grand Slam is always going to boost that confidence and that feeling of, oh yes, my belongings back. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident, and she's going to be riding a high.
I guess the thing is, if that Iga does get through, whoever she plays there, then she becomes a favourite, because that is a key moment in building confidence. And watching her in these first couple of days, it's fascinating to see a player come back to a place they love. Like you're talking about how much you enjoyed Roland Garros, 4 semis. You just get there and you go, oh, this is my place. I feel like that going into Wimbledon. Even if I hadn't been playing well, I go, you just soak up and you feel good, and all of these great matches and moments and points seem to relive in your mind. And I feel like I've sensed that within her body language when she's got into the tournament. So that round is going to kind of define what we might see in the rest of the tournament.
And as you said, if she does get through, Todd, then Iga's going, I think there's something that hasn't been talked about as much because people haven't been considering her the favourite this time. If she wins Roland Garros again, she'll be the first woman since Suzanne Longland to win 4 in a row, which was over 100 years ago. So that would be, Rafa's always winning lots and lots in a row. So someone's always done it at Roland Garros, but on the women's side, that would be
Susan
massive.
didn't have an Ostapenko.
No.
Do you think she pays attention as a player? Do you pay attention to all those numbers? Everyone's talking about the numbers, the records,
I
the
believe
pressure.
she does. Do you?
Even if you don't, you get reminded of it enough that it does, it may not be when you're, about to serve at 3-2 in the first set, but you do think about it, I think. And I think she would, probably love chasing these records.
There are those different personalities that they are motivation, and some of them are oblivious. I think she is very aware and very motivated by those, and also at times stressed by those.
Yeah.
So, but that's also that fine line between making you good and exceptional, and she is always on that fine line. We see that with her emotion.
Another person that is putting together some impressive numbers, Viv, is Gael Monfils.
Yes.
And he, I believe, caught your eye this week.
He did, yes. So amazing win from him in the first round. He recovered from a 2-sets deficit to beat Hugo Dellien. And so building some incredible numbers, as you said. He's won the most 5-setters of any player at Roland Garros. 12th time he's won a 5-set match, surpasses Novak and Stan Wawrinka. So that's not bad company to keep. It was his 40th match win in Paris, the most for any French player, alongside Yannick Noah. All of this, and he turns 39 in September. So, incredible run for him. I think French tennis generally has kind of been in the spotlight in this first week. So you had 19 French men starting in the draw, 9 women. And as well as Gael, you've also got Arthur Fils doing really well, opposite end of the scale. So he's only 20. It's his 3rd Roland Garros campaign. So wouldn't be surprised to see him make a little run either.
That's an impressive story, because Fils had yet never won a match at Roland Garros, but he's I think the highest ranked French man. He's the 14th seed and is the one that has got that incredibly high ceiling. Have you seen much of him, Todd? Like, what do you think? He's the kind of player that could electrify that tournament.
Very much so. I mean, he looks like he could be a front rower for the rugby team as well.
Does.
I mean, he's a big boy for a young lad. But with that, he brings huge speed in terms of the way that he plays in racket head speed and power and that type of thing. So he's really dynamic, typically French in that way. And I say that sometimes you get in trouble now for categorizing, countries and the way that they play. But the French they play loose and flamboyant, and they go for stuff, and it's entertaining. And when he's on, he's really dangerous. I mean, the match that he played against De Minaur at Wimbledon, De Minaur, ends up getting injured near there, and he's just that type of player that you can see all of a sudden going into a deep run. I still think his choices on court, because of that flamboyant way that the French play, maybe hold him back. He's got a little bit more discipline, but he certainly has the firepower, the physicality to do some damage.
And Viv, you mentioned it has been such a significant tournament for the French players already. And one player, Caroline Garcia, Sam, ended her Roland Garros career I think we first saw her there in maybe like 2010 or 2011, that Sharapova match.
Yeah,
all
I
those years
remember
ago.
watching that.
Yeah. And she played her last match at Roland Garros and she was in tears in the tunnel before
Yes.
she walked out onto
She had no
It was
chance.
just, she was so emotional already. But it looked like a really beautiful moment and a lovely moment on the court with Bernarda Pera, who beat her. She had really nice things to say. That was quite an emotional first round story.
Yeah, I did see that in the tunnel. I thought, hang on, this is before the match, right? And I rewatched it just to make sure. But look, obviously anyone retiring for all of us, it is a big moment. It is emotional because it has been our whole life, playing and doing what we love. So I think for anyone who especially can finish, at home or have a Grand Slam where you can sort of say this is my last one and feel it. It is emotional, but it's exciting for her. I think, she had a fantastic career. She sort of bobbled up and then went down and came back up again. And won a couple of Grand Slam titles in doubles and heck of a player. So
Great player
good
to
for her
watch.
to be able to finish there. Well, I guess she's going to continue on for a little bit longer, but at least have this moment in Paris.
I think it was interesting that she announced, I'm going to retire, just before she goes out, and then she's crying at the front gate. And I just think at the end of the match, you saw pure relief that it was over. And I don't think anybody at home understands what that's like. You play your whole professional life with tension and expectation. And when you make that decision, I just looked at her and you could just see the weight of the world come off. And I thought she looked really happy. Yes, it's you're moving on, but there is life after tennis, and I think she's going to be somebody that really enjoys that. And I just thought that was a moment that crossed my mind, was just the pure relief that I don't have to deal with this stress anymore that I put on myself. Because a lot of it as athletes, that's what we do. We think other people think things, and we just add so much to our emotions.
So much pressure. She's also talked about, she's been struggling with a shoulder injury at various times, how she's been playing through pain through a lot of her career. So, I can imagine that it would be a relief.
Yeah.
Hopefully her voice will stay in the sport, because I believe she's also got a podcast that she started in the last year. So,
well, she'd be great to listen to, because I think anybody who has the ability to express what they did well, but also be open to talk about their insecurities, they're the best ones to listen to.
Absolutely. And another French player who is retiring is Richard Gasquet. So he plays Yannick Sinner in the second round.
And that is, Gasquet. When did he first play at Roland Garros? More than 20 years ago? I think.
When I was still playing.
Really?
Wow.
This is his 22nd, I think.
22nd
Isn't it
in
the
Roland Garros.
most?
So that's like 2003 he might have started, 2002.
Yeah.
And he plays, Yannick Sinner. So that will be, an amazing moment that he got in round one to play and win another match at Roland Garros in his long storied career there. Todd, I guess at the opposite end of the career spectrum, we've got Caroline Garcia coming to an end, but we've got a young Brazilian that's lighting up the sport and, just starting on what looks like an incredible journey. It looks like Joao Fonseca has caught your eye.
Joao's unreal. And what caught my eye is, how he's been playing. But it's been a little up and down in recent months, but what he's able to bring to it. But the Brazilian fans. And it was Bruno Suarez that used to play, great doubles player. I follow him. And Bruno said tournaments have to understand that he brings Brazil to every match, and you cannot put him on an outside court that doesn't have enough seats for all those Brazilians to go watch, because he has a massive following already. And we saw that already in his opening match, where people are on the stands of Chartier looking down onto his court to be able to get a glimpse. So I really think, that's where the tournaments have to think about him moving forward, about where they put him, no matter who he plays. Maybe he's on the third court, maybe it's not the big two, but depending on where he goes. But I mean,
Miami discovered this, didn't they? Didn't they have to move him onto centre court?
Do you remember the Demon took him out, and then he wrote, "So nice to be at the Rio Open," that type of thing. But he's another example, a lot like Alcaraz for me, who has watched these amazing players of the era of Federer, Djokovic, Nadal and Murray, and has taken all of the things that they do well. The way he's handling himself, he's managed by Roger's team. He is coping great. The one thing when I watch him play at the moment, though, he still looks quite young. He still looks he still looks a bit like a junior physically. So it's going to be harder for him to go deeper in these tournaments because he isn't robust enough yet in the legs and the recovery. He will be. It's just a matter of time because of his age. But he is so exciting. Crowds that he is bringing is enormous, so that's great for the sport. And he's got another good chance. He takes on Pierre Hubert, who got a wild card. And
speaking of crowds,
so
we're going to have Brazil versus France.
So
at Roland Garros.
that if I would probably be putting that on Susan Longland because that will bring a full house, great atmosphere. But I think Pierre might have met his match.
Well, that would be a best ever result, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At a slam if he was to make it through to the third round.
Yeah. So Fonseca, for me, it caught my eye on many reasons. And, taking out Hurkacz too, which is a big win in straight, who'd come off a good week in Geneva.
And Sam, I believe something caught your eye the week before Roland Garros. It was a great story for Australian tennis.
Yeah, obviously bits happened since then, but Maya Joint picked up her first WTA title in the 250 event in Rabat. Heck of an effort. Also the doubles winner the night before. So she's picked up, her first WTA singles and doubles titles the week before Roland Garros. Then what was kind of funny is I saw that she was going to play Isla in the semi-finals there. And then I checked the Roland Garros draw and I was like, oh, that's juicy. They're playing each other in the first round of Roland Garros too. So they knew that before they'd gone on the court in Rabat. But look, we talked about her a few weeks ago on here about her rise and how well she's done, and now she's 53 in the world, I believe. Just keeps on climbing and climbing and climbing. She's in that kind of sweet spot at the moment where everything's new. Every event is almost a bonus, really, because she's never been there before, and it's just upside for her. So she can really kick on this year, and I think winning last week is a tremendous effort. And now, obviously, she did go out to Isla in the first round of Roland Garros, but she has to remember, okay, look how far I've come.
Yeah.
And this is a new experience. It's the first time she would have walked through the gates at Roland Garros, and she only had probably 12 hours to really be there and experience it. And where's the locker room? Where do I go? Where's this? Where's that? And then she was, put onto the court straight away. That's the way it goes. But that'll be a huge learning experience for her. And she should be really happy with what she's been able to achieve in recent weeks.
I think that point you make about these learnings too. I was pumping her up because I wanted to do well in our coverage, and then we had the highlights of that match. We were crossing between them, and it was just so obvious that you forget how little experience she had. It was a match of someone that hadn't been in any of those places, and she played Isla, who has. So experience and youth went head to head, and experience won on this occasion. But she does seem to take it in her stride. She seemed to be she rushed in that match. She didn't understand how to take her time and let it sort of unfold, which is a normal thing. And it just shows you how few players in the world, men and women, really have this ability to just keep flying. And so this is that first little moment where she has to kind of adjust to being a professional and learning. But when you look at her, and you've mentioned her work ethic, she will.
How hard is it? I mean, obviously she won a tournament with singles and doubles, but I guess physically, mentally, what's the come down like after that?
Well, she would have literally played that singles final, probably gone straight to the airport. She would have had her bags at the courts, gone straight to the airport, flown a couple of hours back to Paris.
To enjoy it.
No, exactly. Check in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Go to the courts, have a quick hit, and then you're playing the next day.
Yeah.
And it's not easy for anyone, but I think especially someone who she literally just turned 19 a month ago as well. It's where am I? You've never been there before. It's frantic. It's everything. And then you're playing someone who you obviously know very well as well. You add that on top of it. But I think physically she was, I'm sure, fine. Yeah. It's more the mental toll on, I've just played 9 matches last week. Now I'm going into this big moment where I really, really want to do well. And, her coach told me the next day, he goes, she slept till 11 o'clock this morning, the day after a match. So I think that shows how drained she probably was. But again, it does show the best players in the world, what they are able to achieve week in, week out to back those things up. And, you don't win titles every week on tour, so you do want to be able to
enjoy it.
And soak it up. And, I won 9, And I think maybe 3 of them I actually was able to spend the night there and enjoy the moment properly before you straight away thinking about the next tournament. So it's easy to say in hindsight and everything, but you really do need to enjoy those moments. And she can't forget what she's just done, all because now, Roland Garros is done for the year. But hey, just take a moment at some stage and just really enjoy it.
And what you do is that you look for the champagne bar at the airport.
Good tip.
That's what you do.
Great tip.
I love it. Well, it was a big deal. Viv and I realised.
That's how you celebrate. Just before boarding.
Maybe she flew business. I don't know. Maybe she got a champagne on the flight. But she was the first Australian women's singles title winner since Ash Barty won the Australian Open 3.5 years ago. So it was a big deal for Australian tennis. But Sam, you saying that first round match with Tomljanovic was juicy. You know both of them very well because they're in the Billie Jean King Cup team. Did you have a sense that maybe Isla her experience might shine through in that first round match?
Sure. I mean, yes, because of the reasons that Todd obviously highlighted before, but more so just because you're the outsider and you've got nothing to do with what's going on. You're on the other side of the world and you can just see them play 2 times in 3 days. So, but yeah, look, that experience, I think Isla did look very composed. She played a very solid match and she sort of let Maya unravel a little bit and was like, okay, I don't have to do more than this. I'm going to just keep being the, the player that I am right now and solid. And she got through it. And that is experience. And that's, again, what she's learnt over the years as well. So it's, but, it's not going to be the last time Maya plays at Roland Garros. And she actually does enjoy playing on the clay. She'll scrap, she'll be aggressive, she'll slide in, she'll try and play some drop shots. And so it will be a surface that I think she kind of keeps growing into as she develops.
Well, that's what's caught our eye this week. Yes, very exciting. And I'm sure lots more will catch our eye as Roland Garros continues into week 2 next week. But now I believe it's time for our fantasy draft check-in. This was a segment, Viv, you were involved with last week when we debuted fantasy teams. So, yes, if we cast our eyes up to the screen here, Simon Ray, Luke Saville and Viv Christie picked their fantasy teams. Viv, I might let you talk to this a little bit about how your team's going.
Yes, well, first of all, this was my fantasy debut in any type of sport or experience. I'd never done a fantasy team before. So, it was, we had that experience of, taking turns. No one could pick the same player twice. Right. So that made it a little bit complicated.
Your team's looking pretty good by the looks there. There's some good players there.
I mean, we have lost Casper Ruud, which is unfortunate. Casper lost, as we know, in second round overnight. Yeah. So he was a favourite going into the tournament. He just won one of his biggest career he'd won his biggest career title in Madrid. So a lot was expected of him. But it turns out he was playing with an injury, a knee injury. So it was a tough loss for him. He lost to Nuno Borges. So
and the manner of that loss, obviously, the last 2 sets were 6-1 and 6-love.
He just couldn't run.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know he'd been carrying an injury. It sounds like that's been going on for quite a while. Obviously, as we've said, he won the Madrid Masters, but that was probably almost a month ago by now. What did you make of those comments, Todd, when he said he's been playing through this pain and feels like he can't take a break?
Well, knowing Casper, he'll take a break on the grass because he just switches off. So that's about to happen and he'll get that chance to do it. But you know what stood out to me is he's so classy. He has a huge heart. He could have shaken hands very early. He would not do that. He had too much honour in himself and his opponent to do it, and he finished the match off. I thought that's what stood out to me. I just think that he is a class act, and you just never know. You hang in, you might get through that one, and then you get chance to get treatment, something happens. But if he has been carrying an injury, well, then he needs to take some time out and fix it. He would be doing his utmost to get through the clay court season because that's the part of the year that he thrives in. So we'll see if he plays Wimbledon, hey?
He's never won a match at Wimbledon, so...
No. I'm in the locker room near him, and usually his thongs with his pitcher on them, his flip-flops are... semi-packed as he's going out for the first round.
We might actually just throw to Casper to hear what he had to say after his loss to Nuno Borges.
Well, it's kind of like rat race when it comes to the rankings as well. You feel you're obligated to play with certain rules that the ATP have set up with the mandatory events. And you feel like you lose a lot if you don't show up and play, both economically and point-wise, ranking-wise, and opportunity-wise. For me, I know that these weeks, months are really important for the remaining of the year and for my career. So, of course, if my leg is broken, I won't play. But it's tough anyways, especially when there's a time with mandatory events to skip them because the punishments are quite hard.
He's not the only one that this topic has come up with. We've had particularly comments regarding the schedule. So Jordan Thompson had some pretty pointed comments about the calendar. We've had Daria Saville reveal on social media she's coming home due to burnout. And Grigor Dimitrov had another Grand Slam retirement. He's now retired from matches at the past 4 Grand Slams, which is really like a worrying trend. What do you make of all of that, Sam, when you see these top players kind of... And I mean, other players have commented, and Swiatek has talked about the schedule and... yeah, there seems to be just like a bit of a growing trend of players struggling with the demands of the calendar.
Yeah, look, it's not a new topic that everyone's talking about. This has been going on for years, about the length of the season from January through November, Davis Cup finishing the end of November, early December. It is an absolutely grueling schedule, and now I do not understand the last couple of years. They've extended a couple of these other Masters events to 2-week events, which I think is very unnecessary. Like, what other sport around the world plays 2-week events the amount of times that we do in tennis? We've got the 4 slams. It has to be. There's 128 players. That's slams are slams. That's it. But these other tournaments, they're not slams. They don't need to be 2 weeks long. And it takes forever to finish them. Some players I heard the Nasi comment the other night. He liked it because he needed the day to recover for his pec and everything. But he's probably one out of, the top 100 that actually need that physically maybe and liked it. But
he also has that pec injury as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
and that's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just extends everything out so much longer. And I don't think it needs to be that way. And they really do need to look at condensing it. And some of the comments from players, like, I can't take a break, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, you have to. You just have to find somewhere to do it and be ready to play. If you're going to pick 25 events to play, just make sure you're absolutely ready to play those events. But yes, I think
you're right. I agree with you totally. I think the 2-week events are awful. I find it boring. I lose interest. That's not what it should be. It's less cities around the world highlighting our great sport. But what happens with it is those 2-week events put pressure on players to be on the road more often. So it means that you've got to allow for those 2 weeks, and then you've got to plan, if I don't play well, I've got to get to another tournament. I've got to add something else. So it's making a 52-week year feel like it's about 64 weeks. Yeah. Because there's pressure on the players, and that's what they're feeling in my mind. Their schedule is, I'm always searching for points. I've got to maintain ranking, whatever it might be. It might be someone in the top 10 that's looking to get a bonus in their contract by finishing the year in the top 5 or number 1. Or it's a player that's ranked 110 who's trying to get to 100 to get in the slams. There are so many variables. And, I mean, the tour is doing it because they can get more revenue, the tournaments. Yeah. So it's a catch-22 situation. You want more money to play for, or you want more weeks off? And that's where the decision needs to be made.
But it also, on that, so if you lose early enough, you might be able to go play 1-2-5 or a challenger on the men's side. It just creates more uncertainty for the players. Yeah. Like, well, if I win today, I won't go there. But if I lose, I'll quickly get there and play again. And that's another event. And it almost makes everything feel more unprofessional.
Yeah.
Where a professional sport, you shouldn't need to be making those decisions on the fly to get to another tournament because you've just lost. And, well, I can play again tomorrow. It's, not a fan.
And the tours put that on themselves. Yeah. The players have pressured them to increase prize money, and that's creating this issue. So, I mean, the players know it. There's a few injuries out there. There's no doubt about that, because you're lucky to have places to play. But, if you're looking at 1%ers to do your very best, then, Sam's right. You have to find a way but there's pressure to do that if you take time off.
It's good to get your perspectives as well as former members of your respective player councils. So, yes, it would be interesting if this was happening while you were both on tour, because I think these started after you guys, the 2-week Masters have only been...
Well, we had
last year.
Indian Wells and Key Biscayne at that time. But now that but that month was always difficult. 2 tournaments in a month, and we didn't actually, when we were playing, we actually didn't have other tournaments. We weren't allowed to go to a second week tournament if you lost first round.
Maybe we can bring up the fantasy draft again, because we haven't. Are we happy to do that? Just because we discussed Viv's team, but also Luke and Simon's teams are both full strength, I guess. Viv's, yours is close to full strength. But yeah, I guess Sam and Todd, which of these lineups do you like the best? Because there's some really good stuff in all three of these.
I mean, Luke and Simon, they got good picks, Viv.
Luke went first.
He's feeling very cheated.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm feeling a bit ripped
Novak,
off.
you've done well. I really like Simon's team as a change-up, because no one in there has won a Roland Garros, and maybe it's time for a change. Coco's had a good clay court season. We know what Yannick can do. Paolini just keeps driving along beautifully, and Draper's dangerous. So I think Team Simon right now is looking pretty good.
All top 5 seeds. Lucky Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really gone out on a whim there with a lot of them.
He did well with his picks. Like his choices were very...
But then Luke managed to get both defending champions.
Yeah, no, I mean, Luke's team obviously very strong. Obviously, Alcaraz, Swiatek, I think, as we mentioned, we'll see how that plays out in the next couple of days with Swiatek progressing. But Andreeva is probably the player of the year so far on the women's side, at least in the Masters events. And who doesn't want to see Demon do well? So if he can have another deep run year...
It just shows you how important your seed position is for Demon.
Yes, he was on that cusp.
He was on that cusp of 8 and 9. If he falls into 8, which is Musetti's section of the draw, I mean, I'm looking at that thinking, well, Musetti's got his best chance to reach a semi here at Roland Garros. He hasn't done that in a major before. He's playing great tennis, but that could have been Demon. Instead, he's up in a section of huge ball strikers in Sinner's section. He's got Bublik, maybe Mensik. It's just really hard. So if he reaches a quarter here, I think he's played incredibly well. This would be the hardest quarter he's made since he reached all 4.
And we might actually keep our attention on the TV now, because we're going to head across to Paris to check in with Brie and Duncan. And where do we find you two this week?
Okay, so we're back in Paris. And Duncan, where have you dragged me to today?
Well, Brie, I've dragged you to the second most famous site in all of Paris. This is the Arc de Triomphe, as we know, to commemorate all the soldiers lost in the French wars. 164 feet tall. This is where the Tour de France finishes as well, around the Champs-Élysées. So what do you reckon? Pretty cool?
It's amazing. It's really nice to be here quite nice and early again. Love. But also, as you mentioned, it's quite tall. So I just want to explain to you, I'm currently stood on a park bench. Duncan is stood on a pelican case.
Yeah.
And
we're the same height.
For once, which is amazing.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I hope you're enjoying that back at home in the studio.
And I'm not going to fall off. But to the tennis.
Yeah.
Lots been happening. We're nearing the end of week 1. What has been your highlight so far?
Undoubtedly, my highlight of week 1 was the Rafael Nadal tribute ceremony inside Court Philippe Chartres. I mean, such a special occasion, Brie. It was unbelievable to be inside there with the 15,000 or so spectators. I mean, the fact that the big 4 were there, Novak, Djokovic, Roger Federer, Andy Murray and Rafa, all together, arm in arm, on Court Philippe Chartres, where they've been having all those battles over all those years.
Yeah.
And then Rafa getting the trophy, unveiling the plaque with the footprint, just the way in which it was done by the French Tennis Federation. I think it was a 9.5 out of 10. I really don't think they could have really improved on it. It was a fantastic effort by all, especially to keep it under wraps.
Yeah.
And it was just a fantastic start to Roland Garros 2025.
It really was. I was out in the crowd. We had to move to quite a few different screens to be able to actually see. It felt like the precinct stopped or stood still in time for that moment. There were people crying. We were all jealous. Everyone in the stadium actually received a Merci Rafa shirt. Yeah. All jealous we didn't get one. Did you get one?
I did not get one, and I'm absolutely spewing at it.
I would be too.
I'm absolutely spewing at it because they're kind of like beautiful T-shirts,
they're
aren't they?
Actually really nice.
Kind of terracotta, lovely, historic. So no, didn't get one. But what was your highlight of week 1?
I'm going to go back to the end of qualifying round, and when I was in the crowd for Daria Seville, our very own Dasha, when she got through to main draw, round one. It was just brilliant to be there to see her do that.
Yeah.
She played a great match. It was really emotional, and it just felt so good to see her do that. It just gave me all the feels.
Yeah, good highlight, because, I mean, that's her 34th main draw Grand
Yeah.
Slam appearance. That's a phenomenal effort when you think about the career that Dash has had. So, yeah, hats off to her.
Yeah. And we've got some really strong results so far from the Aussies, right?
Yeah, really liking the look of Alexei Popyrin at the moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's one of those guys who, his best can be absolutely incredible at times. We saw him beat Novak Djokovic at the US Open. You know, he won the Montreal Masters event last year, and he knows that his best on any good day can beat anybody. He says it's just a matter of bringing that day in, day out. And I spoke to him yesterday after his match against Alejandro Tabilo, a proven clay courter, he's beaten Novak Djokovic in Monte Carlo before, and he said to me that was the best match he's played all year, straight set showing, in pretty tricky conditions as well. So
it wasn't fun to be in the crowd,
It was a little bit chilly.
Raining, a little bit of sun.
Exactly.
Raining, a little bit of sun.
That's Roland Garros, right? It's the beauty of the tournament. But
Love it.
really liking his chances at the moment. Obviously, Alex de Minaur looks pretty good in his first round win as well. And we can't forget Daria Kasatkina. I mean, her first win representing Australia Grand Slam level. Dasha is one of those people that she's got such an attractive game style.
She does.
Whether it's the drop shots, whether it's the tweeners.
Yeah.
She's got that sort of competitive streak as well. So I think Australians are going to really, really come to love Dasha.
Yeah, love. And we've had some big losses overnight, haven't we?
Yeah, some big losses. Massive losses. Stefanos Tsitsipas, a little bit out of sorts at the moment. Obviously, some really early exits from Grand Slams over the last, 12 months. So he'll be dropping out of the world's top 20. So he's the big one that I think that we need to sort of keep an eye on over the next 6 to 12 months. But hey, Brieski, I gave you some homework, this time last week.
Oh, God, I've always been good with homework.
The Roland Garros must-do, the top 5. I want to ask you about them, though.
Yeah.
Number 1,
Yeah.
did you get to see the Rafael Nadal statue?
Yes, I did. I got a photo of it. Not with me in it, but I got a photo.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tick. Number 2, did you go see a Frenchman or Frenchwoman play on court, Suzanne Lenglen?
I did. I saw Arta Fees defeat Nick Jarry. It was rowdy, it was loud, it was everything you told me it would be in main draw.
How good. Okay. Number 3, did you go to the greenhouse court?
I did.
Yep.
I loved it.
Thoughts?
I never wanted to leave.
Uh-huh.
There wasn't a seat for me. But I did stay in there for about 10 minutes watching, getting photos, and then I sat outside for a while on a park bench, similar to the one I'm standing on, doing some work on my laptop because I just loved being near it. It was so amazing. Favourite court in the whole place.
Love it. Okay, number 4, did you go to the Molitor Hotel? Did you see the swimming pool?
I have not yet,
Uh-huh.
but I'm hoping to do that after I finish tonight, pending what time I can wrap things up.
Okay. Number 5, the Piste de Resistance. Did you go to the Sky Bar at Court Philippe Chatrier and have a few bevies?
We attempted it, you and I, yesterday.
We did.
Turns out my accreditation did not get me up there. I'm not yet elite enough, but I'm hoping to come back next year and get straight on up there.
Put it on the bucket list.
It's on the bucket list.
See you next year?
Absolutely, I want to be here.
Done.
Slay on the clay.
Stop.
Oh my God, can't wait to see you guys back in Australia.
Well, great to hear from Brie and Duncan again. Very jealous of seeing them all in Paris, for a place where we'd rather be. But great to hear from them, and we'll be back after the ad break. Well, at the top of the episode, we mentioned Alexei Popyrin, and his draw is opening up beautifully now, I guess, with Casper being out of his section. It's a career best result for Popyrin at Roland Garros. So already by winning his first round match, he won his first match at Roland Garros since 2019, and now he's gone into the third round. It's shaping up to be quite a good tournament.
It's a little bit like what happened for Alex at last year's tournament at Roland Garros. I've called both of his matches. First match against Nishioka was okay, wasn't great, just enough. Then he came out and really played well against Tabilo. He played an excellent clay court match against a guy that's very comfortable on the clay, and that opens up. He plays Bonjour now, and yes, it's going to be tough, but it's winnable. And then it's a Tachanov, and I've got to put my glasses off.
Tommy Paul.
And Tommy Paul. It gets harder, but yeah, he can win that too. And so a quarter final is in reach. I mean, it's a long way to go. Let's not, let's be serious. But Pop, he's op. As you put
Poppy's
earlier.
oppy, isn't that what we're saying?
Well, are we calling it a opportunity?
It's a opportunity. It is a huge opportunity for him. And so I just really like the way he looked, because second round he came in really focused and he had a really deliberate strategy, game plan. He executed it from the opening game. There were moments when, concentration dropped, but he got back quickly. It was one of the more mature matches I've seen in round 2 from Popyrin in his career.
He looked very composed, didn't he?
Yeah.
And this is starting to not be out of the ordinary for Popyrin, in the last 6 months or a year. So there was the Masters title in Montreal, 4th round of the US Open. So he's gone deep in a slam before, quarters of the Monte Carlo Masters, which was a big result on clay. Those kinds of big results, Sam, at Masters level and Grand Slam level, does he carry that in with him to Paris when he approaches that on the court?
Oh, absolutely. You have to. I mean, he's proved he can do that. Some of the times the hardest part is doing it the first time, but he has done it. And he also played exceptionally well at the Olympics last year on these very courts.
Yes.
So he knows this feeling. And, he played really well at the Olympics, and now it definitely is a opportunity.
Yeah, he talks a lot about he talked a lot about the Olympics when he won in Montreal, about what a turning point that was in his career. So you're right, I hadn't actually thought of that. Yeah, it must be bringing back some really confidence-boosting memories.
I think we underestimate the Olympics. Chin Wen and Novak coming back to a place where they won, they're, kind of in the background making second and third round. It's just something to watch out for. Roland Garros, the last time we saw them wasn't the last time, it was the Paris Olympics. And for some players, that was a big lift for them.
Well, and you can't underestimate actually what the Olympics does for you in confidence and what it does for you in how you're perceived as a champion. And they're really important things. A lot of people out there dismiss that tennis should even be around the Olympics, and just have a look at how many of our champions have won medals.
I guess also part of that Popyrin story is the loss of Ruud from the draw, and there have been, even though the draws haven't fallen apart, there have been some notable departures of players. We were very surprised by the Emma Navarro score in the first round, where she lost 6-love, 6-1. We had Peyton Stearns and Marta Kostyuk, 2 players who had great lead-up tournaments, go out very quickly. And then on the men's side, we've lost 4th seed Taylor Fritz, we've lost Tsitsipas, we've lost Medvedev, Cerundolo, who'd had a great lead-up. So there have been some surprises, even though the top seeds are kind of still intact in the draw. What have you made of all of that?
Well, I think Taylor Fritz losing first round was a big shock to me, particularly, the scoreline that he went out. It was pretty straightforward, 4 sets. It's opened it up for a couple of other Americans in Tiafoe and Korda, though, to potentially go through. But that's Musetti's section.
Yes.
And that's why I like it for Musetti. I just love the way he looks on the court at the moment, the way he's playing, the depth that he's carrying in his ground strokes. He just looks ready to make his next move. But when you think about Fritz playing, and I'm working with Thanasi Kokkinakis this week, and he sort of said about Fritz, he said, for somebody as good as he is, ranked 4 in the world, he plays too much. He actually doesn't give himself the chance in terms of tapering up for a major. He's hanging on when he gets into a major. And I thought that was really interesting from a player in the locker room. We can make all of those decisions sitting here in a podcast, but when one of your own who sees you week in, week out thinks that, then I think a lot of the locker room thinking, I've got a bit of a chance because I know he's a little jaded.
Another big name we lost was Naomi Osaka. Now, technically, this wasn't an upset because she lost to Paola Badosa, who just made the Australian Open semi. She's top 10 in the world, so really Badosa was the favourite. But Osaka had come in with some great results on clay and was really devastated after the loss. That showed in her press conference, and she had some pretty... Well, I guess they were troubling comments afterwards that she felt that she'd let Patrick Muratoglu, her coach, down. He'd work with Serena. What's he now doing working with her? It was really sad to see, and I think she had to leave the press conference briefly. What did you make of that, Sam, and kind of where her headspace might be?
Yeah, look, I mean, playing Badosa first round's no easy task, but obviously she expects a lot of herself. She is a Grand Slam champion and number 1 in the world, so she would expect to still win that. But I think it is a troubling comment when you're thinking about letting your coach down or people around you down, and some personalities would certainly take those feelings on board a lot more than others. But to be probably as candid as what she was in the press about all that, it is a little bit worrisome that that's what she's thinking about maybe while she's out there or straight afterwards. And how does that... How do you get over that? How does that change? There's a bit of work, I think, there that needs to be done off the court to, be the person and the player that she is.
Yeah, this is the wrong word, but I'm going to use it. You know, because we in the media spaces want so much and there is social media saying we need to express ourselves. She's a victim of that. In sport, you cannot let your emotions out in a way that your competitors see it. It gives them a lift. And unfortunately for Naomi, she's now gone through the period where I'm indestructible, and now she feels like most other humans with, you know, I'm unsure about myself. She has moved on in life where more things happen. And I kind of feel for her because I've been in the spaces she's talking about. You've been in them.
Yeah.
But it would be my preference for her to talk about them privately. I think it would help her enormously. We all feel like we've let people down, but the reality is when you chat with someone, you haven't. Everyone is behind you. And I thought she played really well. It was one of the best first-round matches. She looks fantastic on court. She's certainly been doing a lot of work physically to get back to shape after having her first child. And for me, Naomi, stick with it. And just kind of believe in yourself that you're doing the right thing, because it looked to me that she was going to win that match. And if she can start to get through those matches, she's going to be top 10. She's going to contend. But you have to let the expectations go and just enjoy this journey a little more than perhaps she is.
It is an interesting one, isn't it, Viv? As members of the media, and we host a podcast, we want people to be candid. And we even had Thanasi, our podcast guest, shameless plug for the sit-down. But he was talking about wanted the players to open up more, and we thought that was great, didn't we?
We did. We loved it.
You see, there's a time for that, though. Now's the time for you know, recently retired, moving into a different phase of life and understanding it all. I've got another 10, 15 years on you to be able to express that. But you can't when 1% counts every time you walk out there.
Yeah. I mean, I probably, in some ways, I was very guarded in a lot of ways. Now looking back, I'm like, geez, I really
you were,
didn't
Sam.
open up much. But it is that...
You're the hardest interview in the sport.
It is true. Like, there's no way I would have ever said anything like that in press. I maybe would have been around the corner, you know, crying my eyes out about it to someone else, but I wasn't going to let the rest of the world or another player see that I was that troubled by that, because you do feel then, well, I've lost 1% there. Next time I'm going out on court, they're going to think they can win. So
it's harsh.
There is a balance. There is a balance to open it up and...
Not being open with the media. People like Sharapova told that story in her biography about she heard Serena sobbing in the locker room after she lost the Wimbledon final. And Serena disputes that even happened. But Sharapova wrote that in her biography. Seeing other players being devastated in the locker room is not uncommon, right? So your opposition already know you're devastated.
Sure, but it's different.
This is deep.
Okay.
This is not just I'm hacked off today. This is a little deeper than that.
And it's also the media can then use this at any moment, whether it's next week or in 6 months' time. They're still going to remember this.
Grab.
Whereas they don't see that in the locker room week in, week out. We might see that, sure, but it's different than when other people are going to be talking about it.
So when you look back on your playing careers, are you kind of relieved that social media wasn't the same factor that it is in tennis today?
I mean, some of the things I've said and rackets that went certain places around courts, imagine the reel would have been.
I didn't realise you were so fiery on court, Todd. You always seem quite locked in.
I'm just, you know.
I've seen you play before.
This when my videos used to turn up in the umpire linesman training sessions. Imagine what they would have done on Instagram.
Well, just one other storyline before we get onto our Ace of the Week that we should discuss is the fact that Novak joined a very select group of people by winning his 100th title in Geneva. That was a big story last week, wasn't it, Viv? And coming into Roland Garros, 100 titles after he'd been on 99 since winning the Olympics, so it was nearly a year. And only Roger Federer and Jimmy Connors are ahead of him. It's just another massive milestone in Novak's career.
Yet another Novak Djokovic record. But I feel like that 100 title was kind of hanging over his head for a long time. So maybe that's freed him up a lot going into, another Roland Garros campaign.
Well, he did everything that he could to get ready for this. I mean, I talked about enough matches. It didn't look like he was going to. He had to go play Geneva, and he did, and he wins it, and he comes in with a good solid first round win against Mackenzie-McDonald, and he's relentless in his pursuit for this greatness, and I think winning 100 though, it's like it may kind of let the floodgates open a little again for him. There is a bit of a relief to that. I'm sure it was a target. He's got that done. But I did see an interview with him talking about where he's at now and what's more important to him. And it looks like there's a quite a significant shift into what I want for the next part of my life. Being with family, being a better dad, being around a bit more, looking at what projects come after tennis. And as soon as your mind moves to that, it's harder to be as individually focused and relentless like he has been. So we're seeing that shift. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do here at Roland Garros, because I don't think this is the one he wins. He has a chance for me more so at Wimbledon.
Well, I guess it's come time to the episode now for Ace of the Week. Sam, we might start with you.
Oh, it's been a pretty lean week, actually. Yeah, I mean, catching up with a couple of friends and go for a couple of walks is probably my highlight the last week. I've been a little bit sick. I'm getting over it, but yeah. Sorry,
nice.
guys. It's not
Can I
super
ask,
exciting.
how long to go?
Like 3 weeks or thereabouts.
Exciting, yeah.
I mean, I hope it's still 3 weeks. It can keep cooking in there a little bit longer.
Well,
Well, you've got to go slow at this point then, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, but actually, one good thing is we do have like some things now organised. We, built a cabinet to actually put the baby's clothes in. So that was a start.
Put the baby in. That's not where it goes, Sam.
You don't
Shut
just
it
put
away
it
in
in
the
the drawer.
drawer.
You can't
Bit
just pull the
noisy.
drawer out and then close it. So you're feeling organised.
An insight into Todd's child rearing. No. I'm joking. What is your Ace of the Week, Todd?
I think my Ace of the Week has to be it's a tennis-related one, and it's seeing Roger, Rafa, Andy and Novak all out on the centre court at Roland Garros. It was just... and people calling them the modern musketeers. That kind of gives me, goosebumps. We've been around it. I played against a couple of them, commentated with them. I've worked with them. And they have just done enormous things for tennis. And that I thought the FFT did a fantastic job of Rafa's farewell. And just seeing everyone in the stand with clay court coloured T-shirts on. And
fantastic,
it was
wasn't
just, that was my Ace of the Week.
Yeah, it was pretty emotional.
That's an amazing Ace of the Week. I'm actually going to follow that theme, because even though we're not supposed to have a tennis-themed Ace of the Week, well, it's all about the tennis this week, right? And as you know, Tennis Mag is my product. We're in our 50th year, and I was actually looking back at 20 years ago when we wrote about Rafa's first win at Roland Garros. And he was talking about his match with Roger Federer in the semi-finals and how he apologised to him. And, yeah, it was just so interesting to look back on how we reported that. So, yeah, that's my Ace of the Week.
A massive milestone. Yeah, we forget it's the 20th year of Rafa, coming back. There was someone, I think, on Insta put a photo of the two of them hugging that first time at Roland Garros after that match you talked about, Viv, and then the two of them hugging on court in their suits for the farewell, and it was just like this lovely moment spliced together. They're so intertwined.
And for everything that he's achieved, Rafa is so humble, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going slightly off topic, non-tennis. I sing in a choir, and we have a concert this week. It is this weekend, not quite 50th anniversary, but it's the 35th anniversary of our choir. We are the first LGBTQI plus choir in Australia, and formed in 1990. And so the concert is dedicated to that journey and how difficult it was to form a choir in 1990, and how hopefully it's a little easier and more visible now.
What's the big number that you're singing?
What we're doing, 16. So the big number. These are all big numbers, Todd.
Yeah. 16 songs.
16 songs.
Okay.
I think 20 overall, because we're also got like a
Can you give us a few bars of your favourite?
No, absolutely not doing that. But all I will say is that it is a broad, it's not a particular theme as like it's this type of music or it's this era. It is actually members have voted for their favourites, so it's quite a user generated.
Cool. I didn't know you did
and
that.
where is it?
Yes, we are singing at MLC. So a big theatre at ENQ.
And tickets are available
Tickets
online?
are available. Can share links.
And
It's
I
in the show
can-
notes. No, like, no.
I can
don't do that.
recommend. I went and saw Matt last year, and it was
Yes.
fabulous.
You
Yeah,
came and saw, very supportive.
Wow, that's
so thank
cool.
you.
Brought my mum along and she loved it.
So that's that's this Saturday. So and then when I get home, I'll put on Roland Garros.
continue with the tennis.
Continue with the tennis. So yeah, there we go. Well, thank you all for being part of today's show. Always
Good
great
show.
to do this in a Grand Slam week
Yeah,
as well. We
it's
love
actually really cool to talk the meat of the
Yeah.
tournament while it's happening. It's
that.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And Brie will be back from Paris with us next week, and hopefully Zave is well and can be back in the host chair next week to dissect the business end of Roland Garros on the tennis.
G'day everyone, Harper and Andy here. Just want to say thanks for tuning into this week's ep.
And if you tuned in on YouTube, you would have seen everyone's fantasy draft team. We want to know in the comments, whose was your favourite and which men's player, women's player have you got taken out the whole tournament?
Yeah, please jump in the comments. So that's YouTube, jump on Australian Open TV and hit subscribe. And whilst you're there, why don't you follow us on socials as well? We'll see you next week.